Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I feel bad that I can't go to the regular open mics that are monthly events here in Austin, Texas. One is called Community Poetry, where I would come and share in round robin 10 to 20 minute readings from new book releases. I feel bad that Tom cannot be hosting this at Half Price Books in Austin right now, but this would be the time that it would be going on, and so in honor of that, I thought I would share material from the select book releases from Scars, including one that is missing some stories that need to go into an audio CD. And that book that I'm working on right now, this is the first printing of it. It's called Close Cover Before Striking. Cool green color, which I don't think you can actually replicate this kind of green in newer book releases, which is why I thought I'd use a reference of a matchbook in the reprinting of it. You can get this through Amazon, Close Cover Before Striking. Wow. Because this is supposed to be all, valuable, important stuff. Artwork, philosophical rants, even says that on the cover. So I thought that I would read some editorials and things that normally didn't get to be read in open mics, and that these readings would go toward material for the CD, audio CD for Close Cover Before Striking. So I hope you enjoy these. This first one I'm going to share with you, got it, is, I'm getting to editorials first. Knowing the history of your neighbors, Big Brother is watching. It was also known as Child Molesters in the Government, Big Brother is watching. In book or in print things, two different titles. So just know that Big Brother's watching. This is your editorial. I was listening to the radio the other night. Talk radio. It keeps me awake when I have to drive a long distance during the night. It keeps me awake, usually because there's enough there to get me angry that I actually want to yell back at the radio. Honestly, I actually heard someone call in and say that it was their constitutional right to food, that the government had to give them food if they didn't get it themselves. Tell me, where in the Constitution it says that citizens of the United States of America have the inalienable right to life, liberty, and blocks of cheese? What? Last time I checked, the pursuit of happiness means that you have the ability to do what you need to do in order to acquire the things that you need, such as food. Not that the government has a responsibility to feed you. So anyway, I was listening to the radio, and the discussion on this particular evening was then about child molesters. Doctors, now they're experts, had pretty much agreed that they are incurable, that castration doesn't stop their urges to hurt children because it is a power struggle more than a sexual venting. So the question arose, should people living within a community where a child molester is going to move into be notified that this person was convicted of molesting children? A similar story arose after a convicted rapist abducted and killed a neighborhood child after he was released from prison and started anew. The neighborhood was in an outrage. If they knew that this man was a rapist, they said, they would have been more protective of their children. And the question going over the airwaves on this particular night was whether or not it was right to notify people of the acts you've been convicted of in the past. People were talking about the heinousness of these crimes, how these child molesters should be killed, etc. Some also brought up the fact that the information about these people is already on public record. The only thing this law would be doing is informing people about the child molesting history of such and such, instead of making individuals search out this information for themselves. Which they could undoubtedly never get around to. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't go researching, I don't know anything about my neighbors. So, first of all, it is not the role of our government to intervene with every aspect of our lives. The governor is supposed to protect society. As the closest thing to a capitalist society on this planet, society is made up of a group of individuals, and the government should work for the individual. Currently, any individual has the right to find this information out about a person. This kind of falls into that pursuit of happiness thing. But we should not expect the government to hand it over to us on a silver platter. If a potential law does not apply in all situations, it is not a good law. So let's apply this idea to other crimes. If you move into a new neighborhood, should all of your neighbors know if you shoplifted when you were 19? I don't think so. All it will produce is just negative effects. People should be more responsible for themselves instead of asking the government to help them out more. Then get angry when the government gets out of control and continually hikes your taxes to support their massive network of laws created on whims such as this one. Furthermore, if this law went into effect for molesters already in prison, they would be, in essence, receiving two separate sentences, at two separate times for a crime they were tried for once. That goes against everything this country was founded on. If they need a greater sentence, give it to them as part of at the same time that they're sentenced. That was an interesting read. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Whether you agree with that or not, I cannot tell you whether or not I agree with that, but it's an interesting thing to actually think about. I am going to read maybe one more for you because it's a longer one, and this is an interesting one, and one I probably wouldn't read in Texas. This is actually a physical letter, and it's called Letter on Religion. Thank you for writing to me about how you felt about your religion. You wanted a response, and I wanted to tell you the things I'm about to tell you over the phone so that you could actually hear my voice. I wanted you to know how honest, sincere, and open I'm being about what I say, how much I believe in what I'm saying. We never seem to get the chance to discuss this, and when we are on the phone, it does seem a little difficult to say, "Hi, let's change the subject to our differences on religious beliefs." So you don't think that I was avoiding the question. I'll answer them now, point by point, from your previous letter. You first ask me what I think happens to us when we die. You believe one of two things happen. You're either saved by Jesus Christ and spend eternity in heaven with God, or you spend eternity separated from God. Whoa. I think I've got to cover some ground here, some other ground about me before I even respond to that one. Okay, here goes. I'm a very rational person by nature. You may not think so by some of the stupid things I've done in the past, but I've grown up, as have you, so I'll get into that all later. There is no proof that a God exists. It is inherent and necessary in religion, abandoning reason and having faith that a God exists. And for every situation where a religious person refers to God's influence, I can give you at least 3 other possibilities that are more grounded in reality, in reason, in reality than theirs. The concept of a God doesn't make sense to me when there are so many more other, more rational possibilities. Something has to be proven to me in order for me to believe it, or at least be provable. Morals taught by religion and the notion of a God are not usually bad. In fact, they're often quite redeeming in society. Not killing people, being monogamous, being kind to others. But those are moral virtues, values which by definition are not based on religion. One can learn good values, morals, without a God or religion. It's just that most people, as I see it, cannot see a consequence to being good unless the consequence is a God. I see consequences in doing good for myself as well as others, And that is why I choose to be good, kind, and successful as a person. Okay, I think that starts to cover the basics. So now I can answer your letter. You believe that there are two possibilities for you when you die. Since I don't believe in a God, I believe one thing happens. You die. Worm food, to be rude. But I believe in the other major reason why religion, I believe is the other major reason why religion and this notion of a God has existed for so long. Because people are afraid to face death. People don't really want to believe that death is an end for them. Well, it is an end for their body, for their personality. Of course, their matter and energy go on to exist in new forms after their death, but when you die, you die. That's what I believe. Your memory can last in others. You can have an effect on people's lives after your death, but when you die, you simply cease to exist. Then you say that you want me to be in heaven with you. Thank you. I really thought that was very sweet. If there was a heaven, I'd want to be there with you too. If there was a heaven, I would hope that your God would look at the life I've led and think that I was a good person and give me the chance to be a part of his kingdom after my death. I've seen, after I've seen his existence, because if your God was unwilling to give me that chance, then I don't think I'd like your God. Then you refer to sharing the joy of heaven with me and the joy of being with the Lord. There's another joy I experience, not related to a God, which I don't think you realize. I'll explain in a moment. Yes, you've always claimed to be a Christian, and sometimes you haven't led a very Christ-like life. Most people are that way, and it bothers me that people claim to have beliefs but don't live by them. They're not really beliefs then, and all these people are lacking in belief systems and that they actually understand. In fact, the fact that you decided to actually pay attention to the beliefs you claim to have had before is an admirable thing. Personally, I think you're going in the wrong direction because I think the scrutinizing the structure your beliefs depend on, Christianity, is a falsehood. But at least you've decided to live by the beliefs that you've claimed for so long. You write that since your decision to grow in the Lord, you haven't felt like running away and trying to fill an emptiness in your life with alcohol or sex. That's good. We all have to come to that point at some point in our lives in order to adhere to a value system. I think I've come to that point as well, but by a different means. Then you ask me, which is better? Being a super intellectual who doesn't believe in God and has an emptiness in their life, or being the person who has Christ in their life filling that void? Wow. There are two things I'd like to say to that last sentence. First, it's funny how a super intellectual doesn't believe in God, but apparently you can't be a super intellectual and believe in God. Well, that's true, but I didn't think you'd write that. Second, you forgot my category. Being a super intellectual who doesn't believe in God and has no emptiness in their life. I fill my own void. I am whole. You see similarities between us, and you say, in my searches for the right party or the right man, I was looking for Jesus. Well, in the past, I suppose I was searching for something else when I was looking for the right party or the right man, but I found it. Myself. I've discovered that I'm an intelligent, powerful, beautiful, dedicated, driven woman who can do what I set my mind to. I've discovered that when I use the best tools I have, my mind, I can succeed in making myself happy, in accomplishing my goals. And you know, knowing that about myself, believing in my abilities as a person, gives me the drive to do what I want and need with my life and makes me truly happy, deep down happy. It gives me what you call joy. And it gives me even a greater joy knowing that it is my mind, my abilities, my power, not some God's, that makes my life complete. I have complete dominion over my life. I'm the one I answer to. I can have a bad day, or I can have a good day. Something can happen to me or my circumstances, but I know who I am, and I know what I am capable of, and I have no regrets, and I know that I'll make it through anything I choose to tackle. I'll make it through what I choose to tackle, not what your God helps me through. And knowing that I'm a complete human being gives me great joy. You write that God has helped you in your dealings with AIDS. I'm sure it has. When your world doesn't make sense, when you're faced with your own mortality, it's a great comfort to make some sense of it all. It's often a course of action for many people who get AIDS when they don't feel they are strong enough to depend on themselves. People I know in AIDS groups say that one of the common roots for people who find out they have AIDS is religion. That's one of the steps most sufferers of traumatic events go through. That's what victim blaming is in cases of rape. It makes no sense that a man did this to a woman, but if it is the woman's fault, the woman could then know what she did wrong, correct the actions of the woman, and the woman feels safe from rape. But it's just not true. This is what you've done with your God. God was your answer to all of your questions, but not the right answers, in my opinion, but an answer when you could find nothing else. You say that God is using your situation to help others. No, you're using your situation to help others. It's that simple. You feel that your church is a place for activism. Your church rejects homosexuality. Your church doesn't believe women are on equal footing with men. The Bible says so. Activism within the church should mean the sharing of values and morals and good beliefs, but I fear that activism within the church would mean the spread of narrow-minded ideas such as homophobia and sexism. Then you share a few verses with me. The first is John 3:16. He gave his only son. And then you say, that's unconditional love. God loves me and you no matter what we say or do. I think that's wonderful. I don't think that's wonderful. It makes no sense to give unconditional love. If love is unconditional, then there is no value in it. If you love something or someone, whether that something or someone is good or bad, you love something or someone whether you want to or not, then it is not earned, it is not chosen, and it is not a value, and it possesses no worth. Value is a standard to be judged by. Worth is defined as someone is deserving or of meriting. To me, love is a standard that people earn and therefore deserve, and that is what makes it valuable to me. You say that you can't believe you lived as long as you did without believing these words. Yes, it means you don't get the credit for the things you've done, but at the same time you realize the Lord has a hand in it. End quote, you write. But God didn't have a hand in it. Gods have been created by people throughout the ages to answer the unanswerable. People, created rain gods when they didn't understand the weather. People created gods for the harvest when they didn't know if they could sustain themselves, when they didn't have the knowledge to harvest successfully. People created gods that reflected the stars and planets that they didn't understand the universe beyond this world. People created a god to explain how the world began, how to live well, and what will happen after our lives end. All these gods reflected the image of man and earth, but they were all created. God doesn't have a hand in what you do. You do, and you should thus take responsibility and credit for what you do. Quote, yes, bad things still happen, but you know that God will see you through them, you write. Yes, bad things still happen, but you know that you will see you through them. You, not your God. And that brings us to the difference between happiness and joy. Happiness comes and goes. Joy is forever. I even have times that aren't happy, but I never lose joy or hope. You wrote that sentence, and you wrote it about your God. I would have written that same sentence, but it would have been about me. You really want me to experience the same joy you have. I think I do. And my joy comes from within. You can't find joy from within, so you find it in your God. Then you write, now, let's say I'm wrong. When you die, you're just dead and there's nothing else. Well, I'm still happy trusting in God and won't have lost anything. The thing is, if there is no God, you have lost. You've lost your life. You spent your life living it for something that wasn't real, that didn't exist. You spent your life relying on something other than yourself. You spent your life under false assumptions, not to your full potential, doing what you were not meant to do as a human being. You've wasted your life. And to someone who doesn't believe in God, your life, this lifetime, is all you have. So you've lost everything. But if I'm right, wouldn't you like to be with me in heaven? Quote unquote. As I wrote before, if there was a heaven, I would only hope that your God would look at the life I've led and think I'm a good person and give me the chance to be a part of his kingdom after my death. If I saw a God, if he was shown to me after I died, I think I would be on my knees praising. I mean, yes, you'd have to respect the guy if the guy really did everything religion claims. But if your God was unwilling to give me that chance, then I don't think I like your God. Besides, that wouldn't be a God that loves me unconditionally. I don't think you're some brainwashed right-wing preacher, as you write. I do think you have intelligence. I also think you're scared. I think that most of us, most people our own age, still feel as invincible as we did when we were too young to understand death, and none of us are ever really ready to face our own mortality. I wish I could help you with your fears. I don't know the right words to say, but I know that the answers are within you, and you just have to look for them. I have thought about this. I wouldn't just cast aside what you say. I think this letter is evidence to that. But I thought about this for years. You'd have to do that in order to have a cohesive value system. And I don't think this because I feel the world is cruel and evil. In fact, I think there is an opportunity for great happiness and joy in life, for great achievements, and for great minds to prosper. But for great minds to prosper, they have to follow reason. Faith may be acceptable for hunches about unimportant day-to-day events, but not with your life. You have to take your life into your own hands and make it what you want. I know you won't read this and agree with me. I'm just hoping you understand me and not worry about me. I get the impression that you do, that you think I have a void in my life and it's only filled with depression, and that's simply not true. As we grow up, grow old, mature, and gain knowledge, we have to come up with our comprehensive value system in order to make our lives complete. I think I've done a pretty good job for myself. I'm sure there's a lot more learning I have to do in my lifetime, but I think I'm on the right track. I hope you are, too. Okay, that was a nice long one. So I'm sharing you 2 essays at a time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope you've enjoyed these readings. I will be coming back with more live readings from the book Close Cover Before... I just lost my page. Close Cover Before Striking. That was originally printed with a neon green cover. That copy is no longer available, but you can get the cool matchbook cover and a lot of fascinating writings. And I will talk to you guys very soon. Thank you very much.